2 more years of classes. So you can't say, hey, first 2 years I'm done, I'm a pastor. No, he has 2 more years after that. So a total of 4 years. There are 16 classes in those 4 years. And he doesn't get to pick and choose which ones he takes, when he takes them. It's a very defined coursework over the 4 years. So what happens when he does complete the SMP program? He will actually be considered a SMP pastor. The key here is, because of the abbreviated nature of the coursework, he will only be able to work here at St. Paul. He cannot receive a call from another church. If he elects to, again, this is totally up to him, there's some additional coursework that he can take after the SMP program to become a general ministry pastor like Pastor Zolensky is now. But again, that's beyond the scope of what we're talking about. So we're talking strictly about the SMP. So, how about the work he's already done? The sad part is, right now, our understanding is the work he's done so far will not count towards the 16 classes. So it's not like he can say, hey, I've already taken that course or something similar, I can not take that class. Again, it's 16 courses over 4 years. And the reason for that is, there's a whole bunch of words there. I'm not going to read them. But the meaning behind that large paragraph is, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod trains their pastors in a very specific manner to make sure that they preach the true gospel. So there's no real shortcuts to become a Lutheran pastor.
So just pause for a second while the kids get to their classrooms.
Can I join them? So, seeing all those kids come out, that's the future of our church. Mm-hmm. That's why we need good pastors, not just to lead us, but to lead our young children into adulthood. Sorry, I had to get that extra plug. So, what is the application process? What has Reverend Streeper done already? The first was to have an interview with the regional vice president and submission of the transcripts that he's already done. That's done. The district president has endorsed St. Paul as a suitable congregation to host a SMP, and that Reverend Streeper is a suitable candidate. The next step is we as a congregation have got to make a commitment saying we're going to support Reverend Streeper and the SMP process here at St. Paul. Once we make that commitment, the elders and pastor will send the letters of recommendation to the seminary to allow him into to get him into the program. So, is there going to be a difference in the ministry at St. Paul? I would say initially, you probably won't notice a difference. The reason being is, we've had Reverend Streeper here for the last approximately six months. So he's going to continue on in the areas that he's been helping with. So again, he would be considered a vicar, not a pastor. Again, we're just going to go through it again. I hate to repeat myself, but sometimes it has to sink in that after the 2 years, he will be ordained and will become a pastor, and we will have 2 pastors at that point. But again, he has to go through with the final 2 years of coursework. What exactly would you say he does? He's been working with the youth, the high school, Sunday school, and the youth group programs. I don't know how many of the guys here have been to some of his movie nights and men's Bible studies. I have. See a show of hands. Okay. The community engagement. Let's see a show of hands. Who came here for the Christmas in the Valley? That's pretty good. That was Reverend Streeper. He organized it with Valley City. We're planning on getting more involved in the community. What's a good way of spreading the gospel? But get involved in your community. Stuff like the frog jump, street fair, maybe dinners. Of course, there's the worship, the preaching, and the teaching. And then future, the visitation of the homebound and the sick. I mean, Pastor Zielinski tries to see all the homebound at least once a month. Reverend Streeper would be in addition to that. So he wouldn't replace Pastor Zielinski. He would be in addition, so our homebound members would be getting more care. And also new member integration. I think we do a pretty good job when we get a new member. Hopefully we don't scare you away or make you feel uncomfortable, but Reverend Streeper will enhance that integration process. So before I take questions, I always give Dave Hesketh credit for this saying. Dave, what's your saying?
If the church isn't growing, it's dying.
The church isn't growing, it's dying. And a good way for a church to grow is to have additional pastoral ministry. I'm really echoing there. Oh, wait, you could hear me?
Yeah.
Wow.
We hear you okay.
Okay. So, questions? I know I'm not that good of a speaker. There's got to be questions. Jim.
In the seminary, will he be still present here again?
I'm sorry, that's a very good question. It wasn't clear. The 16 courses are online courses. And then he visits Fort Wayne, how many again, Reverend Streeper? Is it once a year or twice a year for a intense, I call it, study, for lack of better words. But yes, he will be here, and the majority of his coursework will be online. Thank you, Jim.
As a visitor, as a vicar, he can't visit the sick or the homebound?
Yes, he can, but technically he wasn't a vicar yet.
But I mean, when he is a vicar,
Yes.
he can go ahead and do visitation.
Yes.
No communion.
But no communion, sorry.
No what?
No communion.
Oh, right.
I think we come sometime to remind ourselves that all of us can visit the sick and the homebound. We do it ourselves occasionally. It's a ministry for all of us.
White.
By no communion, what do you mean by that? I understand that.
Can't distribute.
Like,
He
he
can't
can't do the words of institution to, like, I'm not here,
Right.
and it's only him right now, or as a vicar, then we wouldn't have communion on those days, because he doesn't have, he hasn't been ordained into the
I think it's
office.
geared more towards the homebound.
Oh, the homebound? Again, that's also a thing where, we're consecrating the elements there with the people. It's not just simply delivering them to them, but also just doing a service with them right there at that time.
So, but is he allowed to help?
As far beforehand, before his ordination, he'll visit. He'll do, like, I visit people sometimes, and we don't do communion, like in the hospital or something. He'll do visits like that.
Right.
He'll continue to do exactly what we see him doing on Sunday mornings as well. Yeah, good question.
Can he deliver communion if it's already been consecrated?
No. It's not a great practice to, like, consecrate things here at church and then say, all right, everybody go deliver it. We want to bring the words of Christ to the people who are receiving it when they're receiving it, as opposed to say, well, they were consecrated earlier, don't worry. It's more like, no, we're going to do it right here with you now in this place.
We did that in Ascension. the elders would take communion.
It's been a varied practice over time, but we discourage that because we want the sacrament to remain whole when we're delivering it. We want the whole thing there, the words of institution, the bread, the wine, the whole deal at that time that they're there, so that the people receiving it know this is just like when I receive it at church. We want them to have that full confidence with that.
Keep in mind, part of that is also as a called and ordained servant of the word, he can issue us or serve us with forgiveness of our sins, which we would not.
The absolution, to be able to say, as a called and ordained servant of the word, I forgive you all your sins. That's a special and unique sort of exercise of the church's authority there. I mean, we forgive each other's sins all the time and things, so that's still effective and real and all those things. Once he's ordained, then he'll be able to say, as a called and ordained servant of the word, because that's what he is. Good questions.
So would he be titled as vicar or reverend or pastor? Promotion or promotion?
That's a good question. And for the first 2 years, probably either keep it as it is, or we could refer to him as vicar. It's going to be one of those two. After he's ordained, then we'll refer to him and called as a pastor, then we'll call him pastor. That's after the 2-year mark.
When will he be a vicar? As soon as we approve?
In September is when that academic year starts, and then he'll be entered into the program.
That's on some later slides.
Yep. Yep.
Reverend Schiffer, would you like to come up and say something? You don't have your hands full. You're around those, you'll see the last time.
Lana had to go out of town for work this week, and she left at 3:30 this morning, so he's a little clingy this morning. If I don't do anything else easier, I don't have a traditional old school pastor's wife. She has a very important job of her own, and she has to go travel this week, so. What's the other name?
Yeah.
Well, the stage is yours.
I wrote you about this. You got it. What do you want to know?
Questions? Got any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
So after your 4 years are done with your studying, whatever,
Yeah.
you'll be here.
Yeah.
And then will you get your Master's of Divinity?
Maybe. I'm getting kind of tired.
Okay.
All right, so this seems to be a really big question. So let me run through this thing. The SMP program is a 4-year program. I'm getting absolutely no credit for any of the MDiv work that I have so far. So I have to go through this 16 courses. Around here, we probably won't change title from Reverend or Vicar or anything just because it was a weird thing. Like, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still ordained. I'm just not certified by Missouri Synod, which is what this whole process is for, which is why you don't see me delivering absolution. You'll notice when I preach Sunday the pastor's not here, I do something we call a declaration of grace, which is a very slight difference in the nomenclature. You may or may not even pick it up. But I don't deliver absolution because I'm not certified and called through the LCMS. And I assist with communion, but I don't consecrate the elements unless there's a very emergency exigent circumstance, like when Pastor was gone and Walter Dill Sr. Passed away. I was blessed to be able to perform that function if needed and be there alongside with Walter and his family. So in those sort of exigent circumstances, then yes, I can do those things. But in a regular, ordinary situation, we won't be doing that. But the program runs for 2 years. I have to do online. And then now when you hear online, I know that gets scary to some people. These are live online meetings with our instructor, with the cohort of students around the country that are engaged in this. So there's going to be 15, 16, 17 of us that are live in a Zoom meeting, if you will, with our instructor, having live instruction, asking questions, engaging in the material, working through the material, studying just like I would be at the campus. But I get to stay here. And I get to continue our ministry here and work here. And then at the 2-year mark, I have to sit for a written and oral examination to make sure that my proficiency level is at a standard. And then I am certified and ordained and called. And then I have to continue the next 2 years of the program. At that point, this whole thing is done. I'm considered an SMP pastor once, now, and forever. If I decide to go finish my MDiv, which is a separate issue, then I can become a general pastor like Pastor Zielinski. And at that point, then things could change for me. But until that point, I'm here. I haven't decided on that. Now, more likely than not, because I'm a doer and an overachiever and I like to finish things I started, I'll do it. And also, I only have 5 classes left to finish my MDiv. Yeah, and none of these 16 count towards that either, which is just all kinds of fun. But hopefully that answers that question about the education. Yes, Jean.
Is your class,
There's 2 G's. Yeah, I'm sorry. You go. You go
are your
first.
classes like Monday through Friday, like a regular college?
No, they handle class. It's a 2.5-hour class Monday evening, once a week for 16 weeks, and then interim sessions and calls throughout the week and studies. It's a master's level education. Other Gene.
I was here Wednesday for the Lenten Supper that the youth served. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that haven't been able to witness this. But there was quite a few young people and some of the parents that were under your direction. And we had a very nice meal that was prepared and served by the youth.
The youth. Yeah.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about, what your function is with the young people in the sanctuary and what you see happening here at St. Paul.
Sure. So the primary reason that I was brought on was what we call in the military force multiplication. But to augment and assist pastor, that's why you call me the pastoral assistant, because he's very well stretched thin. Every one of us only have so much bandwidth. I was taught this thing called span of control. Some of you may or may not have heard of it, but you can handle this many things because God gave you this many fingers, right? And you can manage them effectively, but once you have to squeeze too tightly and they start ringing through, then you need extra help and you have to start delegating. Being a former high school teacher, I've got a lot of experience with youth. And I am working with our high school and junior high students primarily through Sunday morning Sunday schools. I am working with the little ones now, doing I call it kiddie church, in between services, while our choir directors and youth teachers are getting them ready for their singing performances. We do a little kids message about the gospel, kind of boil it down to a kid's level, which is pretty easy because Jesus said it should be really easy to understand the faith, right? We just make it engaging for them. And then Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, we work with the high school and junior high youth. Here we have, we call Youth Night. We share a meal and fellowship. And then we do Bible study and devotion, and then we have some sort of activity. Sarah and Chris Duran have been helping me out with that, and I couldn't do that without them. So just like Pastor needs a little bit of help, so do I. And looking forward, we do have a gaggle of little kids in here. That's the future of our church. This little is the future of our church. You guys were here in the fall when we were talking about this Trail Life organization. Trail Life and its sister organization, American Heritage Girls, are good Christian, theologically sound outdoors activities for our men and women to engage with their children and for us to engage with our community. That I think is not just a mission of the church, but it's also something to be involved with as the church to help give our children things to grow with. I'm investigating maybe doing a once monthly Sunday night youth service here. We've talked about that a little bit. So there's a lot of opportunity for growth in ministry.
Let's move on to the next set of slides, and then we'll have more questions at the end. Let's do that. So we'll let you off the hot seat.
For now.
For now, I can come back. You want help?
So this is the fun part of the presentation after, so if you have already flipped back to the rear pages of your handout. So what's the cost of implementing this program here at St. Paul? So the three items, one is to provide our scholarship towards the cost of the SMP program. So the SMP program itself has a cost. To provide a salary for Reverend Streeper as he serves as a pastoral assistant / vicar, and then eventually achieve associate pastor compensation as he moves through the program. So the SMP program costs approximately $10,000 a year. And the reason why I say approximately, as you know, stuff always increases in cost and never goes up and goes down. So right now it's approximately $10,000. That would be for 4 years. So what we're proposing is put $5,000 of that into the budget for St. Paul and allow the members, if they feel like it, to contribute for the other $5,000 on an individual basis. Or if necessary, Reverend Streeper would pick up the portion that's not covered. Again, more older members may remember Jeff Burgess. We helped him get through SEM when he was becoming a pastor. So currently, as pastoral assistant, we've contracted him for a year for $40,000. We would keep that salary. We would add some mileage because there'd be mileage going back and forth to the SEM for his intense study periods and also when he starts his visitations. The other item is, since he will be considered a vicar, we have to include him in the Synod pension and disability insurance program, and that's based on a percentage of his salary. We're not doing that now because he's not considered a vicar or a pastor. So that would be roughly based on the $40,000, approximately $4,400 for the year. Then we would pick up the taxes for another $3,000. So salary, benefit, taxes would be $49,400. The total cost for the 12 months, again, would be the salary, tax, benefits of $49,400 plus the scholarship that we discussed in the slide before, a total of $54,400.
I mentioned the cost of the last two vicars that we had in comparison.
Well, so for the last two vicars, we effectively budgeted $40,000 for each of the vicars, the cost of the vicar. So that cost hasn't went up.
Oh, surprise.
So what the slide before showed was for a full 12 months. You will be starting in September, so we have to amend the current budget for the remainder of this year. Again, our budget goes from January through December. So for the remainder of 2024, it would be $26,490, and it's broken down. This is shown effectively half. His current contract runs out in July. Again, we had him contracted for a year as a pastoral assistant. So we would have to again pick up half the salary, half the mileage, half the benefits, and so on. So again, we would have to amend the current budget for $26,490.
So what happened between July and September?
I mean, that would be the 6 months. 2025 budget, again, so that would be next year's budget. It would be a full year, again, which was the 54,440, 26 and beyond. The reason why I would say it's TBD, he will be considered a pastor, so we would have to take a look at the salary and the benefits at that time. What's the next steps? We're calling a special voters meeting on March 10th, so in 2 weeks. Just a tidbit that I just found out. Guess when the time changes? March 10th. So keep that in your mind. So what the agenda is would only be on this topic. We would not cover other topics. It would strictly be on the SMP and Reverend Streeter. So we would have to commit to the SMP program, which would be supporting it, and then eventually issuing a call, set the goal for the scholarship of 50-50, and then amend the budget to add the $26,855. That would be what we would vote on. One is we're going to commit to the program, and two, we're going to commit the funds for the rest of 2024, knowing that 2025 we will have the additional $54,400 for that year. Final thoughts. We talked about the increased capacity for the ministry. So one thing that probably Reverend Pastor Zielinski has said before is we've kind of gotten the luxury of seeing what a increased pastoral staff would look like already. Since Reverend Streeter's been here roughly six months. They kind of got a sneak peek of what it would look like. And then I know the numbers look big, but St. Paul has a good history of stepping up and meeting the challenges when it's required. So, any other questions now that you saw the cost? Larry?
You say our SMP program starts
In September.
in September?
Yes.
Okay, so it's geared to a academic year at, say, a college.
Yeah. I mean, it's done at the SEM. I think I'm getting my my
Reinforcements, yeah.
Like we need double the force multiplier.
Oh, yeah.
Any additional questions?
I go with Reverend Streeter.
Sorry?
Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I've talked to several people when you're talking about
You have to talk up, Tim, we can't hear you.
mission.
Talk louder.
Can't hear it.
One of the questions that was asked was, what commitment are we going to have here once you're done?
Oh,
You know, that's kind of a question that I've been asked several times.
that is an excellent question.
And I mean, I know you, and I've talked with you several times about it, and you told me how you feel. So maybe you could tell everybody.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. The whole part of this conversation about the SMP pastor, or when you call any pastor, is what's the commitment? You'll hear Pastor Lindsay say, when you call a pastor, we're here until we're not here, right? Until we have that other call. In the case of an SMP pastor, it's a little bit different, right? You are making the commitment to help get me through this program. I am making the commitment to the church to continue on in that ministry after the completion of that program for as long as you will have me. I don't have any intention on going anywhere else. I don't have any big aspirations. I don't have any big aspirations on like moving up and becoming anything else. Like, I love our community. I feel like I've been called here to St. Paul and directed here to St. Paul by not one but two pastors, and But it's a commitment, and we're making a commitment of faith together. We're saying we're going to invest in you, Reverend Streeper, because you're going to invest in our future here in this congregation and in our community, and that's every intention. I hope that answers that question. It does. But yeah, I don't have any plan on going nowhere. I don't think Bonna's going to let me.
Yeah. So, we're paying yours all the way through the SMP program, and if you decide to go on 2 years after that, who pays for that program?
Rephrase your question.
We're paying for you to go through this whole SMP program and to be our pastor through the SMP program, and you're allowed to go 2 years after that to become a regular minister. Who's paying for that?
Okay, so here, okay, let's stop with the general pastor issue, all right? Because this adds confusion, and just I don't want to be disrespectful. Don't worry about that.
If you chose to go
if
on,
I do
would
it,
take care
I'll
of
do it. If
That
I
would be on
don't,
you.
I won't. It really doesn't matter, right? The only thing that being a general pastor versus being a SMP pastor allows for me to do is to take a call somewhere else and be in a position of leadership. So like as a SMP pastor, I'm not allowed to serve as circuit visitor like Pastor Zielinski or Pastor Holtzman have done with the other pastors. I'm not allowed to have a vote in the Senate delegation. Say for instance, and this is a big one because somebody asked me about this, say for instance, Pastor Zielinski takes a call somewhere and I'm the SMP pastor. You can't just fleet me up, as we'd say in the military, and go, oh, well, Pastor Streeper's here, and he's a pastor. Let's just keep him, and then bring in somebody else. I'm not allowed to have that pastoral authority in a senior pastor position for that program. I am here for a very specific purpose, which is to run our men's ministry, our children's ministry, our evangelisms, and things like that in the community, and build our discipleship.
Well, Pastor Zielinski's not allowed to
Yeah.
Good job, Jim.
There's a couple of sites him and I picked out back.
To be fair, yeah, as far as taking a call or something, if I were to take a call somewhere, then as somebody else would consider their call here, they would see that in relation to having a team ministry already in place here and how those dynamics work. That would all be part of that, like it always is. Just so you're aware, just with the kids and arrangements with them and their living with me and their mom and things like that, I'm not available on call lists. To be relocated. So I had some inquiries and I said, don't even bother putting me on your list. I'm not going anywhere. So just so you're aware of that.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's
a real question.
It is. But it's good to know that, congregations call associate pastors and senior pastors with associates all the time. And it's always a very strong exercise in faith because they don't know how that dynamic is going to play out between two workers or you're adding a worker for the first time. What's that dynamic going to be like? And we've been afforded the luxury of not only experiencing what it's like to have additional ministry staff on site already, but also how that exact team works together. And we work together very well as far as gifts that complement one another and lift each other up and build each other up. His ministry here has been a blessing to me, as it has been to all of you as well. And so that is a bit of a rare luxury that we've been afforded in that respect. So, yeah, Sandy.
If we continue with keeping Pastor Streeper here as is, will this affect us going forward in continuing in the vicar program?
We've had that question a few times too. That's an excellent question. Right now, the monies that we would be committing toward a vicarage program are being diverted to the pastoral assistant and then the SMP program and paying for those things. As our ministry continues to be enhanced by this and where the Lord leads us after that, we can consider re-entering the vicarage program as its own consideration at that time. At this point, we're going to be committed to the SMP program and adding associate pastor. Where we go from there is a conversation to be had later on down the road. Yeah, Anita.
I don't really have a question, but I do have a comment, whether it's well received or not. Most of you know that, I mean, Jamie and I, when we moved to Ashland, we didn't come back. We were gone for a period of time. Where the church was before we left, and where the church is since we've come back, and with Pastor Streeter here, we have seen an openness. We have seen a big increase in the productivity of the kids, stepping up to the plate. I mean, there's so many things that we miss. Some of the acolytes, you know, the children's sermon. There's things that just aren't there anymore. We see that coming back. Just with the increased awareness, with you taking more responsibility in the district, that's your forte. You're good at that, and you love that, and that's perfect. And we always have someone where we don't feel that we're burdening you because it's like, oh, no, I mean, but we want to.
Yeah.
And we need the extra hands. We need the extra guidance. Even with our elders, I think it has been phenomenal. Just the time that we have been back, just seeing the level of commitment from Pastor Streeter and from you, and you do work well together. And I think working well together as a whole, I mean, from the elders and everything, just from what we can see, not knowing behind the scenes, and it flows very, very well. I mean, yes, I'm disappointed for Pastor Streeter not being able to step up to that plate because I think he is very well qualified. I'm grateful. I'm very thankful. And I think that he is very, very much.
Thank you for sharing those observations of how the ministry has grown and those kinds of things there.
And I'm just going to add something real quick, Dean, because Anita brought it up. We need him in Senate leadership where he's at, okay? You guys may not be privy, you may be privy to some of the things that have intruded into the Senate and even here locally within our own area. He is a voice that needs to be heard in our Senate to help to keep us confessional and to help keep us Lutheran.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
every one of us needs to. I'm sorry, brother, but it's got to be said. Every one of us needs to support him in that, especially as culture continues to go the way that it goes, and as it infiltrates even our own Senate. He needs to be there. So support him and pray for him in that, because he is a voice there. Sorry, go ahead, Dee.
Just real quick about the district secretary things that I'm serving right now. Those meetings are on Fridays, and I've kind of been able to relegate my my service to the district in the Senate at large to those Fridays, which are my days off. So I just want you to be aware of that, trying to compartmentalize that a little bit. Dee?
I think we need to go back to the slide that talks about the scholarship, because I don't think we really talked about that real good. There's a scholarship that we have on that slide. And what that means is there's a cost of it's a total of $10,000 per year that it's going to cost Reverend Streeter to go to these classes and attend these classes. St. Paul is looking to budget $5,000 of that. Now, $5,000 is on top of the $20,000. So we call it a scholarship, and the reason we call it a scholarship is tax purposes and all that stuff. But that's what we want to focus on as a congregation. When Jeff Burgess, who some of you don't know who he is, but was attending here at St. Paul and was a vicar, he went to a seminary, and he had a scholarship here of $15,000 per year. And St. Paul met that scholarship every year by the members contributing to that. So what St. Paul here is asking is that we put into a $5,000 scholarship for Reverend Streeter. So that means that we can also help contribute towards that, towards a scholarship program. And so I want to make sure everybody understands what that scholarship is. It goes towards that $10,000 per year. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah, we're budgeting $5,000 toward that 10, and then leaving an open-ended opportunity for individual members to contribute toward the other $5,000. So we could provide up to the full amount, budgeting $5,000 commitment, and then through individual gifts of congregation members, then filling out that $10,000 each year. And then what Dean is saying is that when we were committed to Jeff Burgess for 15, individual contributions toward that is what covered that $15,000 a year. And because I know your generosity and things, I joked about this at the other meetings, that means that the total cost for the 4 years is $40,000. When that scholarship fund reaches $40,000, I will cut you off. I'm going to cut you off then, so we can redirect things the other way. But so you see that we're putting $5,000 of budget dollars into it, but the other $5,000 we're leaving open-ended for all of us to try to commit to that and set that goal. We'd like to cover 100% of it. That would be wonderful. But what isn't covered in that other $5,000 will come out of his pocket, and he knows that. And that's everybody's got skin in the game here, and that's an important aspect of it too.
And we know that when we've done certain projects here at St. Paul, the roof was $113,000. We covered 71% of that. Not from the budget at St. Paul. It was covered by members here at St. Paul. 71%. We did the parking lot. It was $54,000. 46% of that was covered. We're doing the sign, $22,000, and I know we've got over a third of that covered already. So that is all generosity of the members of St. Paul.
I just want to say, like, I'm not indigent. Okay, I appreciate the generosity of the church, but just to put it in financial perspective for you, so you understand kind of the structure of these things. When I'm attending MDiv classes at ALTS, which is American Lutheran Theological Seminary, through our sister synod, the AALC, it costs me roughly $1,000 to $2,000 per year, depending on how many classes I take. They offer 4 quarters, and if I take a full load that year at one class per quarter, it costs me about $2,000. And up until now, I've been budgeting that, right? But that program has been said, hey, it's not adequate for you to continue in ministry. You need to go through this new program, this SMP program. So now my cost per year has gone from $2,000, which I was able to handle with budget, to $10,000-ish, right? And I can stretch a little bit, but I'm sure like a lot of you have bills and things like that, and you've structured your lives around what you earn so that you don't go into debt. And I've done the same thing. And I've talked to Pastor and them and said, listen, I can stretch it X amount of dollars more, but I can't stretch it $10,000 more. And that's where the elders have talked about maybe coming up with a little bit of scholarship assistance for that. And that's above and beyond. And if it's there, I'm grateful. And if not, I'll sell more hairy ugly pigs.
Other questions? Michelle and then Jean.
Just really quick, with the vote that we're going to be doing on the 10th, is it going to be a secret ballot? And
We anticipate the vote will be by ballot.
And will he be here for the conversation? I mean, is it going to be open for more conversation like this, or
Yes.
is this it?
No, there's still going to be conversation that day as a regular voters meeting to discuss the motion that's proposed. What we'll be considering that day is in the newsletter this month, and it was basically what was in the newsletter last month as well. And so those are available at the Welcome Center. And so we'll be there to discuss those things. So if you have additional questions, additional conversation to be happening, that is definitely that opportunity that day. So as far as the classes and things go, the 16 credits, it's a very tightly curated collection of classes. The Missouri Synod has always had a very rigorous pastoral formation curriculum, and that's so that any pastor that we're turning out, we want the people in the pews, the members of the congregation, when they call their pastor, to know with a certain amount of expectation that there's a certain amount of preparation and rigor that they've attended to in preaching and teaching and taking care of the things of the ministry, of the congregations. And so that's why to shorten that in any way, they wanted to make it a very tightly curated packet of classes that need to be taken in sequence so that there can be those assurances, especially in the distance learning where you're not on site kind of situation. Jean?
This is kind of a person, but Do you think the classes that you've taken in the past have been a waste, or will they help you with your future classes that you're going to go to?
I've learned something from every single class I've taken. And no education is ever a waste.
But I mean, about
The question was whether the classes he had taken were a waste, or
or will help you with your business classes.
Oh, yeah. Most of them, actually, half of them have been Lutheran classes. Art.
I think Gary Dittmer, I worked with at St. John South Euclid,
Yep.
went through this program.
Yep, Gary Dittmar, who had been a teacher at St. Mark and principal and served the church in tremendous ways, went through the SMP program. The program's been around since 2008. St. John's Nottingham has brought a couple pastors through this program in particular. So it has been a program that since 2008 has been continuously improved and refined each year as we've gone through it, making it even better and better.
Well, Gary had to go for a week at a time, 1 week a year or whatever,
Yeah,
and
once a
stay
year.
there at Fort Wayne, I believe, for intensive class.
Larry?
The budgeted $5,000 for the scholarship.
Yes.
What happens if that's oversubscribed? Will he be able to use that money? In other words, let's say it comes in at $6,500.
So the cost of attendance will be $10,000. So if we budget the $5,000, there's going to be another $5,000 out there that needs to be paid for, and that will come from from the scholarship fund that people can contribute directly to. That will only go toward that scholarship money. Once the commitments to the seminary cost are met, then that scholarship fund will remain whole in there. If we collect all $40,000 in additional contributions, then we won't take anything out of the budget.
I think maybe he's suggesting that the scholarship fund could possibly go to additional scholarships in the future.
In the future, yeah, once the program is complete, then we can go back to committing, supporting seminarians as we have been adopting seminarians for a couple $1,000s a year.
So a food for thought for all of us is, we have 522 members, correct?
Correct.
If each family would give $20, that $10,000 would be covered.
Goes quickly.
And it's not that much when it's in hands and like work.
Right.
How would each of us feel if we had another $10,000 put in our rate that we would have to pay for? And Pastor Schreiber is willing, you are willing to up and down and to the grindstone to get the job done, do the work.
Yep.
We're just supporting you.
It is a financial ask because it is amending the budget from where it currently is. And what we've seen as a history of the congregation here is that the congregation funds the mission when you see the value in the mission. And that's what we wanted to talk about, the benefits to the ministry, the work of the gospel here among our people and in our community and beyond in bringing Pastor Streeper on board. We hope that you'll see in that the value of adding him to the staff here, to our ministry, and investing in that. And as we have in the past, again, fund the ministry as we see the ministry has value. And that's what we're asking all of you to do. We're up against our time here, and we're going to let Reverend Streeper have the last word, and then close with prayer. He closes with prayer. Okay, I can do that.
Michelle, ask questions. Okay, all of you. Don't let me be an obstacle to asking a question. Right? Please. Ask hard questions. Ask questions that you think might offend me. Right? I'm not going to get offended. Jay came over to my house the other night, and we sat down for a couple hours, and we were talking about stuff, and he asked me some really hard questions. Right? One of them kind of hurt my foot. No, I'm kidding. But he asked me some really hard, tough questions. And that's what we need to do in this. We need to be faithful. We need to be diligent. That's what the elders are doing. Don't be afraid. Don't let me stop you from asking a question. Please, please, please. Because the last thing I want to do is be a hindrance to anybody. This may be a really big blessing. You may not feel that it is. And that's okay to say that. And it's okay to vocalize that. And you may think the money could be spent better somewhere else. Or you may think this is a great investment. Right? But vocalize that. And don't worry about me. I'm here. And I'm going to serve. Right? Judah's here too. But I wanted to make that known, okay? Because I know that sometimes the presence of the person you're talking about can make you a little squirrely in your seat, and I don't want that to be the case. So let's close in prayer. Judy, you want to help me? No? Okay. Lord Heavenly Father, we thank you for the time to gather together to discuss the work of your church. Lord, as I look around, I can imagine right now the church of Acts and the elders gathered in the church talking about doing all of the work in their community and how it's going to look and how they're going to budget it and how they're going to struggle through it and all for one glorious purpose, Lord, to serve your kingdom, to expand your kingdom, to be fulfillers of this great commission, to take the gospel out to the four corners of the globe, starting right here in our community. I thank you for this opportunity to discuss together, to learn and to grow together. And as we move forward, we ask that your Holy Spirit be present with us as we discern these things, as we debate and investigate this issue further, and to be with our leadership, our elders, as they shepherd this church forward into the next couple of decades, Lord. It's in Jesus Christ's name we pray, and all Lord's people said, Amen.
Yes, Judah?
I'm glad you.
What?